As rank 4 premiums in the Soviet and Chinese air trees, the Beriev BE-6 and its Chinese cousin, the Ching-6, are a pair of capable and highly unique flying boats. In this video, I'll go over the history of them both, as well as how to make the most of them in-game. In 1932, Georgy Mikhailovich Beriev founded the Beriev OKB in the city of Taganrog on the Black Sea, and quickly became the Soviet Union's most famous designer and manufacturer of seaplanes. In 1935, the first of these was the MBR-2 multi-purpose flying boat, followed shortly by the Kor-1, later renamed the BE-2, which was a reconnaissance seaplane that could be launched from Soviet ships. In 1940, the next design was the Kor-2, later BE-4, which was a reconnaissance flying boat, also capable of being launched from ships. These had the NATO reporting names of Mote and Mug, respectively. The first prototype of what would become the BE-6 flew in 1945, just a couple years after the initial plans for the new Soviet flying boat were laid down in 1943. After some improvements requested following tests, Beriev equipped the production model with more powerful Shvetsov ASH-73 radial piston engines, the same found on the Tupolev Tu-4, and changed the defensive armament layout from 6 12.7mm machine guns to 23mm Nudelman Richter NR-23 cannons, also used on the Tu-4, followed by reducing the number of turrets from 5 to 3. This improved variant had its maiden flight in 1951, with serial production following shortly after. The BE-6 was given the NATO reporting name of Maj, and was built from 1949 until 1957, and 123 were built across 19 minor variants throughout its production cycle. The BE-6 was a remarkably reliable plane, and served in several roles for the Soviet naval aviation, namely long-range maritime reconnaissance, coastal patrols, torpedo bombing strikes, mine-laying, and transport. The BE-6 was able to fly at extremely low altitudes, often flying 10 to 15 meters above the sea for extended periods. The BE-6 remained in service until the late 1960s, when the aging airframes were retired and replaced with the newer BE-12, a more modern design powered by turboprops, but without any turrets. In War Thunder, the BE-6 is a rank 4 GE premium that sits in the Soviet air tree at 5.0 in air, ground, and naval realistic battles. It's protected by 3 23mm turrets, a twin turret in the tail, another dorsal twin turret, and a single-barreled one in the nose. The tail turret has very good angles, whilst the front one provides decent coverage. The main weakness is the placement of the third turret, which can't reliably fire forwards or backwards, so is limited to firing sideways and upwards. This leaves a rather dire gap in coverage from behind, which means it's fairly easy for most planes to intercept you. Your suspended armament consists of 8 pylons, with 4 under each wing. The outer 3 can carry either a 250 or 500 kilogram bomb, whilst the inner one can carry those, a 1500 kilo bomb, or a 45-36 MAN torpedo. This torpedo is a fairly average airdrop torpedo, although you'll have to make sure you're mindful of your speed and altitude when dropping it, as it needs to be dropped below 378 km an hour and 105 meters. The BE-6 is a literal flying boat, so its rather unwieldy flight model should come at no surprise. It's rather slow too, and its wings rip at 500 km an hour, although it's most uncontrollable once you get into the mid-400s. In every game mode, if you manage to get enemies in your turret sights, the NR-23s are very deadly and have a great volume of fire to hit enemies from a decent distance. Be mindful of the front turret, as it only has 100 rounds before it needs to reload, unlike the 450 and 500 in the tail and dorsal ones respectively. When it comes to payload, what you'll want to be carrying depends on which game mode you're in. For ARB, you're a bomber, so you're going to want to be bombing bases. You're going to want to carry 500 kilogram bombs, as these are your most effective. You'll need 3 per base, so I'd recommend carrying 6, which allows you to get 2 bases, although you can carry 8 if you want to pick up part of another base, or a couple ground targets on the way there or back. One tactic I'd recommend trying to see if it works for you is to select the runway spawn instead of the air spawn. This is because it allows you to both hug the ground and stick with your team. The downside of this is that it will mean others bomb bases before you, but that's likely to happen anyway as the BE-6 is a very slow aircraft. Don't worry about trying to take off, as spawning or repairing on the airfield spawns you in the air above it. In Ground RB, you're probably going to want to bring the Fab 1500s. It's up to you as to whether or not you bring the smaller bombs, but bear in mind you're quite an unwieldy airframe, so you're likely to have a hard time hitting moving targets and dodging AA with those smaller bombs. If you're bringing 1500s, you can only bring a single 500 and 250 on each wing, due to weight limits. At 5.0, it's not a terrible choice, although the TU2s at 5.3 are a world of difference. In naval battles, you're going to want to bring either the Fab 1500s or the torpedoes. The bombs are more reliable, but the torpedoes do offer you some standoff range. Unfortunately, AA at this BR is much more competent, so you're fairly likely to be torn to shreds by proxy AA, or even shot out of the sky by a SAM. In the spring of 1952, Chairman Mao Zedong approved the establishment of the People's Liberation Army Navy Air Force. To support this, a naval delegation was sent to the USSR to acquire seaplanes, and in October 1955, 6 BE-6s were flown to Qingdao to equip the PLAN-AF. In 1970, the original Shvetsov radial engines had significant wear, and no replacements were available as they had long been discontinued. As such, substantial modifications were carried out to modernize it. The most notable of these was the replacement of the engines with Ruojiang WJ6 turboprop engines, which were copies of the Soviet Ivchenko AI-20, as well as changes to the engine nacelles to accommodate these. Other improvements included a new generator and an overhaul to the fuel, oil, and engine control systems. 4 of the 6 BE-6s received these upgrades, and these were redesignated Qing 6. These were the only Chinese aircraft to receive the designation of Qing, as they're usually designated with letters like J, H, or Q. On one aircraft, other new additions included an anti-submarine magnetic anomaly detector and acoustic buoys to enhance its anti-submarine abilities, at the cost of the removal of its bulletproof equipment and the tail turret. The Qing 6 remained in service until the 1990s, when it was replaced by the Harbin SH-5, a much larger flying boat, which was very recently succeeded by the Avic AG600, which entered service this year and is still powered by variants of those same AI-20 turboprops. The Qing 6 is represented in War Thunder as a rank 4 in the Chinese air tree, much like its Soviet cousin. It, rather surprisingly, is also 5.0 across air and ground RB. The first and most notable difference between the BE-6 and the Qing 6 in-game are the engines, but they make a huge difference. While the Qing 6 is somewhat faster in a straight line, the drag of the airframe does hinder its top speed, meaning that the new engines really shine in a climb and at high altitudes. The other difference between the two is a suspended armament. You still have the same bombs and torpedoes available, but the Qing 6 also gets access to 250 kg incendiary bombs, meaning you're able to take out many more bases than the BE-6 can. In air battles, you're better off taking the normal bomber spawn and climbing substantially. You'll notice that your engine will let you keep climbing more or less as high as you want, so you're good to aim for 5, 6, or even 7 kilometers, depending on what the other team is doing. As you start with an altitude advantage over fighters, you'll have an incredible energy advantage over them, and you'll be able to continually leverage that. Unlike the BE-6, you can roll your plane over to make use of your top-mounted gun on enemies trying to come in from below, as you have enough engine power to not just fall out of the sky when you do. The result is kind of disgusting, as the fighters you engage are generally not able to properly fight back against you, because they have low energy from having to climb to meet you. When doing this, your main danger will actually be yourself. You'll have to be very careful when descending or dogfighting. Yes, dogfighting, as your rip speed is still 500 km an hour, and you get rather quite uncontrollable above 400, making it very hard to pull up and out of a dive. If you're looking to dogfight, I'd recommend either ditching or straight up not taking bombs, but if you'd like to bomb, you have two options. You can either take 8 incendiary bombs or this loadout here. Both allow you to destroy 4 bases, but the one on the right allows you to get more rewards for it. For the first 2 bases, you'll want to drop one 1500 and one 500, and for the other 2, it's just 2 incendiaries on each. If you're running 8 incendiaries, then it's just 2 on each. In Ground RB, the same loadout recommendations apply as discussed in the BE6 section. Napalm is rather useless against tanks, although you're significantly better off against enemy fighters. The downside here is that China's 5.0 Ground RB lineup isn't super strong, and the TU2 sits at 5.3, where it remains a fair bit of a better option. Sadly, there isn't much to talk about in naval battles, as China currently lacks any navy tree, although the dev blog for the Qing 6 did make a reference to naval battles, so one can only hope. Both the BE6 and Qing 6 sit at rank 4, both are 5.0 in arcade and realistic battles, and 5.3 in simulator battles. Both have the same research and Silverlight modifiers, 498 and 780% respectively. Both are GE premiums too, and both cost 3,850 Golden Eagles. In terms of being a plane to grind with, neither is really spectacular. The lack of speed means you won't get to bomb bases quickly, and their rather low rank means they won't get you to the planes most people aim for. That said, you don't have to get a premium for the sake of grinding. Both are unique planes and can be capable in the right hands, especially the Qing 6, which is surprisingly really fun to fly. I personally don't think it's likely the Qing 6 will stay at its current BR, where it's objectively under-tiered, but I still think it's worth buying if you want to spend a little on something fun. If the Qing 6 does get moved up significantly, then I'd probably recommend the BE6 too, although currently it's sort of redundant. And that's it for the BE6 and its Chinese cousin. I hope you enjoyed watching this video as much as I enjoyed making it. If you did, then liking and subscribing would mean a lot to me. If you'd like to vote on the next video's topic, there'll be a poll in my Discord, link in the description. And that's all from me. I've been Girl Twink, fly safe.